Why is it that the most grounded and unshakable people in life often have no one to text back? What do they know about solitude that the rest of us don't? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why having a small circle, or none at all, is a sign of immense inner strength. In a world where everyone chases likes, followers, and an endless stream of connections, there are those who quietly step away. These individuals choose a smaller circle, or no circle at all, not out of loneliness, but out of strength. Today, we're unpacking why that choice can be the key to security, peace, and a deeper understanding of yourself. If you've ever wondered if it's okay to live on your own terms, you'll want to hear this. 1. The power of solitude. Why being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Why do so many people fear being alone? It's a question worth pondering because, in today's hyper-connected world, solitude often carries a stigma. We're conditioned to think that being alone equates to being lonely, and that loneliness is inherently bad. Social media platforms, advertising, and even casual conversations reinforce this idea that constant interaction with others is a sign of a fulfilling life. But when you peel back the layers, you'll find that solitude and loneliness are two very different things. In fact, solitude can be one of the most powerful tools for personal growth and inner peace. Let's get one thing straight. Being alone doesn't mean you're missing out. It doesn't mean you're antisocial, depressed, or undesirable. For some, being alone is a choice, a deliberate decision to step back from the chaos of the world and reconnect with themselves. People who embrace solitude aren't running from the noise. They're choosing silence because it's where they can hear their own thoughts most clearly. It's in those quiet moments, away from distractions, that they find their true selves. Imagine this. You're in a room with no one else, no phone, no TV, just you and your thoughts. For many, that's an unsettling idea. But why? Because silence can be uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to it. When you strip away the external noise, you're left with only your inner dialogue. That's where the real work begins. You start to confront who you are, what you want, and what you fear. It's not always easy, but it's necessary. Growth doesn't happen when you're surrounded by distractions. It happens when you face yourself head-on. Think about the most influential thinkers, artists, and leaders throughout history. They often spoke about the value of solitude. Why? Because solitude gives you the space to process your thoughts, to create, to innovate, and to heal. When you're alone, you're not performing for anyone. You don't have to worry about how others perceive you or what they expect from you. You're free to be your authentic self. And in that freedom lies immense strength. Of course, society makes it hard to embrace solitude. We live in a world that glorifies busyness and social interaction. If you're not constantly engaging with others, people assume there's something wrong with you. But the truth is, some of the strongest people choose to walk alone, not because they're incapable of forming connections, but because they understand the value of their own company. They know that solitude isn't a weakness, it's a strength. When you're alone, you learn to rely on yourself. You become your own source of comfort, validation, and motivation. You stop looking for external approval and start building a deeper relationship with yourself. That's where true confidence comes from, not from the number of friends you have or the attention you get, but from knowing that you're enough on your own. Solitude also gives you clarity. When you're constantly surrounded by people, it's easy to get caught up in their opinions, emotions, and agendas. You start to lose sight of what you want and who you are. But when you're alone, you have the space to reflect. You can ask yourself the big questions. What makes me happy? What do I value? What kind of life do I want to create? And because there's no one around to influence your answers, you're more likely to find the truth. Now, let's address the fear of loneliness. It's natural to crave connection. It's hardwired into us as human beings. But there's a difference between craving meaningful connections and fearing solitude. Loneliness comes from feeling disconnected from others, even when you're surrounded by people. Solitude, on the other hand, is a state of being content with your own company. It's not about isolation, it's about independence. The strongest people understand this distinction. They don't need a crowd to feel whole. They're not afraid to spend time alone because they know it's an opportunity to recharge, to reflect, and to grow. They're secure in themselves, and that security makes them resilient. They're not swayed by the opinions of others or the pressure to conform. They know who they are, and they're not afraid to stand alone. So the next time you find yourself alone, resist the urge to reach for your phone or fill the silence with noise. Instead, embrace the solitude. Use it as an opportunity to connect with yourself, to listen to your thoughts, and to find your inner strength. Remember, being alone isn't the same as being lonely. And the more comfortable you are with your own company, the less you'll need the validation of others. 2. The myth of many friends. Why quantity isn't quality. Let's tackle a belief that's been ingrained in us since childhood. The idea that the more friends you have, the more successful or loved you are. It sounds great in theory, doesn't it? A wide social circle seems to promise fun, support, and endless opportunities. But when you dig a little deeper, you'll see that this belief is not only misleading, it can also be harmful. Here's the truth. Having a lot of friends doesn't guarantee happiness or fulfillment. In fact, spreading yourself thin across a large group often leads to shallow connections. Think about it. How many of your so-called friends truly know you? How many would show up for you in a moment of crisis? The answer is usually fewer than you think. The strongest individuals understand this. They don't measure their worth by the number of people in their lives. Instead, they focus on the quality of their relationships. They prioritize depth over width, choosing a few meaningful connections over a sea of superficial ones. It's not about how many people know your name. It's about how many truly understand your soul. Why is this so important? Because meaningful connections require time, energy, and emotional investment. You can't give that level of attention to everyone. When you try to maintain too many relationships, you end up spreading yourself too thin. You're constantly juggling expectations, trying to keep everyone happy, and neglecting your own needs in the process. That's not a recipe for happiness, it's a recipe for burnout. A small circle, or no circle at all, frees you from this pressure. It allows you to focus on the relationships that truly matter. These are the people who bring value to your life, who challenge you to grow, and who support you unconditionally. They don't drain your energy or demand your attention. They enrich your life in meaningful ways. Now let's talk about the fear of cutting ties. Many people hold on to relationships out of guilt or obligation. They worry about offending others or being seen as cold. But the truth is, not every connection is meant to last. Some people come into your life for a season, and that's okay. The key is to recognize when a relationship is no longer serving you, and to have the courage to let it go. This isn't about being selfish or unkind. It's about setting boundaries. When you prioritize your peace and well-being, you create space for the relationships that truly matter. And when you surround yourself with the right people, you'll find that you don't need a large circle to feel fulfilled. Even one or two meaningful connections can make all the difference. In the end, the myth of many friends is just that, a myth. True strength doesn't come from how many people you know. It comes from knowing yourself and surrounding yourself with those who truly value you. So don't be afraid to let go of the superficial and focus on what truly matters. Quality always trumps quantity. 3. Inner security, how self-reliance sets you free. Let's get real. How often do you catch yourself relying on others for validation, happiness, or a sense of purpose? It's a natural human instinct to seek connection and approval, but there's a fine line between healthy relationships and dependency. The truth is, the foundation of a fulfilling life doesn't lie in how others perceive you. It lies in how you perceive yourself. Self-reliance isn't just a skill. It's a way of being, a mindset that sets you free from the constant need for external validation. So what exactly does it mean to be self-reliant? At its core, self-reliance is about being secure in your identity. It's about understanding that your happiness, stability, and worth don't depend on the presence or approval of others. This isn't about isolating yourself or pushing people away. It's about building a life where you're the main pillar of support. When you achieve this, relationships become a bonus, not a necessity. Here's the thing, when you're self-reliant, you're not afraid of being alone. You don't see solitude as a void that needs to be filled. Instead, you see it as an opportunity to grow, to reflect, and to strengthen your connection with yourself. And that's where the real magic happens. Because when you can stand tall on your own, you stop needing others to hold you up. Imagine going through a tough time. Maybe you've lost a job, ended a relationship, or faced a personal setback. In moments like these, it's easy to feel lost, especially if you've been leaning too heavily on others for emotional support. But when you're self-reliant, those challenges don't break you, they shape you. You learn to find solutions, to adapt, and to keep moving forward, not because someone else is there to guide you, but because you trust your own strength. Of course, self-reliance doesn't mean you never ask for help. It's not about shutting people out or pretending you can do everything on your own. In fact, true self-reliance comes with the wisdom to recognize when you need support and the confidence to ask for it without shame. The difference is that you're not dependent on others for your sense of self. You're not seeking help to be whole, you're seeking it to be better. The benefits of self-reliance extend far beyond your personal life. When you're secure in who you are, you become more resilient in the face of criticism and rejection. You're less likely to be swayed by peer pressure or societal expectations. You make decisions based on your values, not on what others think you should do. And that kind of independence is rare and powerful. Now, let's address the fear that often holds people back from embracing self-reliance: the fear of failure. It's easy to doubt yourself, to wonder if you're strong enough to stand alone. But here's the truth: self-reliance isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to try, to fail, and to learn. Every mistake you make is a step toward growth. Every challenge you overcome is a testament to your resilience. And the more you rely on yourself, the more you'll realize just how capable you are. So how do you cultivate self-reliance? Start small. Take responsibility for your choices and actions. Set goals and work toward them, not because someone else expects it, but because it's what you want for yourself. Spend time alone and get comfortable with your own company. Reflect on your strengths and values and remind yourself that you are enough, just as you are. When you build a foundation of self-reliance, you gain a sense of freedom that's hard to describe. You're no longer tethered to the opinions or expectations of others. You're not afraid of losing relationships because you know you'll be okay on your own. You're free to live authentically, to pursue your passions, and to create a life that reflects who you truly are. And that freedom, that's what it means to be truly secure. 4. The chaos of crowds, protecting your peace in a noisy world. Have you ever felt completely drained after spending time in a group, even if it was with people you like? Maybe the conversations felt superficial, the energy was overwhelming, or there was just too much going on for you to fully relax. That feeling isn't uncommon, and it's a sign that not all connections or environments are good for your mental health. Crowds can be chaotic, and if you're not careful, they can rob you of the peace and clarity you work so hard to maintain. In today's world, it's almost impossible to avoid crowds. Whether it's physical gatherings or the digital crowds of social media, we're constantly surrounded by noise. Opinions, drama, and distractions come at us from every angle, leaving little room for quiet reflection. For many, this chaos becomes the norm, and they don't even realize the toll it takes on their mental and emotional well-being. But here's the thing: you don't have to participate in the chaos. You have the power to step back, to set boundaries, and to protect your energy. A man who values his peace understands this. They know that true strength isn't about being everywhere, doing everything, or pleasing everyone. It's about knowing when to say no, when to step away, and when to put yourself first. Let's talk about boundaries for a moment. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's about recognizing your limits and refusing to let others push you past them. This might mean declining invitations to events that don't align with your values, or limiting your time on social media. It might mean distancing yourself from people who bring negativity or drama into your life. Whatever form it takes, setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. Of course, protecting your peace isn't always easy. Society often rewards extroversion and constant activity, making it seem like stepping back is a sign of weakness or laziness. But the truth is, stepping back takes courage. It takes strength to prioritize your well-being over external expectations, and the rewards are worth it. When you protect your peace, you give yourself the space to focus on what really matters. You're not distracted by unnecessary noise or drama. You're not wasting energy on things that don't serve you. Instead, you're able to channel your time and attention into your passions, your goals, and your personal growth. And in doing so, you create a life that's not just busy but meaningful. Another benefit of protecting your peace is that it helps you form stronger, more genuine connections. When you're not caught up in the chaos of crowds, you have more energy to invest in the relationships that truly matter. You're able to be present, to listen, and to engage in a way that fosters deep, meaningful bonds. And because you've set boundaries, these relationships are more likely to be healthy and balanced. Let's also address the role of self-awareness in protecting your peace. It's important to recognize what drains you and what energizes you. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with certain people or in certain environments. If something consistently leaves you feeling exhausted or stressed, it's a sign that it's not serving you. And once you identify those patterns, you can take steps to change them. Finally, remember that protecting your peace is an ongoing process. Life is unpredictable, and new challenges and distractions will always arise. But the more you practice setting boundaries and prioritizing your well-being, the easier it becomes. Over time, you'll develop the confidence and clarity to navigate the chaos without losing yourself in it. In a noisy world, peace is a rare and precious thing. It's not something you find by chance, it's something you create and protect. So don't be afraid to step back, to set boundaries, and to put yourself first. True strength isn't about how much you can handle, it's about knowing when to let go. And when you value your peace, you'll find that it becomes the foundation of a life filled with purpose, clarity, and joy. 5. The wisdom of selective connection, choosing quality over quantity. Let's start with a simple truth. Not everyone deserves a spot in your life. This isn't about arrogance or shutting people out. It's about self-respect and understanding that your time, energy, and heart are limited resources. When you choose to surround yourself with fewer people, but the right ones, you're not rejecting others. You're valuing yourself enough to be selective, and there's immense wisdom in that. Think about the idea of quality over quantity. It's something we often hear when it comes to things like possessions or experiences, but it's just as relevant to relationships. Many people fall into the trap of believing that the more friends they have, the more successful or loved they must be. But having a large circle often leads to shallow connections, the kind where you talk but don't truly communicate, where you're together but still feel alone. On the other hand, a small circle, or even no circle at all, frees you to prioritize depth over breadth. Imagine having just one or two people in your life who truly understand you, who respect you, and who uplift you. Those are the connections that matter. They're the ones that leave you feeling fulfilled instead of drained, supported instead of judged. The decision to maintain a small circle isn't about rejecting humanity or isolating yourself. It's about carefully curating the relationships that align with your values, your goals, and your peace. It's about recognizing that every connection requires effort, and that not all of them are worth it. You wouldn't invest your money in something that offers no return, so why would you invest your energy into relationships that bring no growth or joy? Now let's talk about why being selective with your connections is so powerful. For starters, it allows you to show up as your authentic self. When you're surrounded by people who truly get you, there's no need to wear masks or pretend to be someone you're not. You're free to express your thoughts, your emotions, and your quirks without fear of judgment. And that's liberating. Selective connection also protects your energy. Let's face it, some relationships are exhausting. Whether it's because of constant drama, negativity, or one-sided effort, these connections can leave you feeling drained and depleted. By being intentional about who you let into your life, you can focus your energy on relationships that nourish you rather than drain you. But what if you don't find people who fit your values and needs? Here's where the real strength lies, being okay with standing alone. Many people cling to relationships, even toxic ones, because they're afraid of loneliness. But solitude isn't something to fear. It's a space where you can grow, reflect, and build a deeper relationship with yourself. When you're comfortable standing alone, you're no longer at the mercy of others. You're free to wait for the right connections to come along instead of settling for the wrong ones. There's a term that applies here, emotional minimalism. It's the idea of decluttering your emotional life, much like you would declutter your physical space. When you let go of superficial or toxic relationships, you create room for more meaningful ones. You also give yourself the gift of peace, something that's often hard to find in today's chaotic, fast-paced world. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know who to let into my circles? The answer lies in intentionality. Ask yourself questions like, does this person add value to my life? Do they respect my boundaries? Do they encourage my growth? And just as importantly, do I add value to their life? Relationships are a two-way street, and the best ones are built on mutual respect, trust, and support. It's also important to remember that being selective doesn't mean cutting people off at the first sign of conflict. No relationship is perfect, and disagreements are inevitable. What matters is how those conflicts are handled. Healthy relationships are marked by open communication, accountability, and a willingness to work through challenges together. If someone consistently shows these traits, they're worth keeping in your circle. On the flip side, don't ignore red flags. If a relationship is consistently one-sided, if it leaves you feeling worse instead of better, or if it violates your values, it's worth reevaluating. Walking away from unhealthy relationships isn't easy, but it's necessary for your well-being. And remember, letting go of a toxic connection isn't just an act of self-respect. It's also an act of kindness toward the other person. It frees both of you to find relationships that are a better fit. Let's touch on the societal pressures that often make people feel like they need a big circle of friends. Social media plays a huge role in this. We see influencers and celebrities with massive entourages, and it's easy to equate that with success or happiness. But what you don't see is the quality of those relationships, or the loneliness that often hides behind the facade. The truth is, some of the happiest and most fulfilled people have the smallest circles. They've learned that it's not about how many people you know. It's about how well you know the people who matter. And here's another thing to consider. Being selective with your connections isn't just about who you let in. It's also about who you don't let in. Not everyone will understand or respect your boundaries, and that's okay. You're not responsible for changing them or meeting their expectations. Your only responsibility is to yourself and to maintaining the peace and clarity you've worked so hard to cultivate. The wisdom of selective connection extends to every area of life: friendships, family, romantic relationships, and even professional networks. It's about creating a life where every connection serves a purpose, whether it's love, growth, support, or inspiration. And it's about recognizing that sometimes the most meaningful connection you can have is with yourself. So, as you navigate your relationships, keep this in mind. You don't need a big circle to be happy, successful, or secure. All you need are connections that align with your values and bring you peace. And if you find no one who fits that description right now, that's okay too. Stand alone, build your inner strength, and trust that the right people will come into your life when the time is right. In the end, the size of your circle doesn't define you. What defines you is the quality of your connections, the respect you have for yourself, and the peace you carry within. By choosing quality over quantity, you're not just building better relationships, you're building a better life. And that's a choice worth making. The man who stands alone isn't alone at all. He's standing with his principles, his peace, and his purpose. In a world obsessed with more, he understands the power of less. That's not weakness, that's security. Hit subscribe and dive into more ideas that could change how you see the world and yourself.